And that's why Australia doesn't exist.
Thank you so much for kicking us off, Lars. So speaking of, this panel is all about how Australia doesn't know. Wait, hang on. Sorry, this panel is called Great, Now I'm Hungry. It is all about using food and drink as an element of your writing, from how does it affect the reader experiences, to incorporating your favorite recipes, to helping it build out part of your world. So my name is Rachel Nee Kirk. If you ever get confused about how to say my name, picture Nee and Captain Kirk in the face. And I'm just going to go around, have everyone like introduce themselves, give me a line or two about like who you are, what you're working on, and then I'll be kicking off. So let's start off with Gabe, because you are right next to me.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Gabe Brathwaite. I wrote and write From Chef to Crafter to Conqueror, I Am Gamer, Warrior Academy, and some other books. Currently working on a new series with Athon Books that's coming out soon, hopefully. And yeah, that's it.
Lars.
Well, hello, I'm Lars Magner. I won't ask you to pronounce it because you won't be able to. I write underdogs and sideways shit where you have some main characters that don't exactly go for the main attack, and they're not the big bad strong people. And I write a lot of lit RPG, and I am very embarrassing to be around. Just ask Brian.
Sorry, you're the reason Brian is more manageable when you're together. Speaking of Brian.
Yeah, I get him drunk.
Brian, who are you? Why are you here?
Who is any of us? Who are we? Sorry. I'm Brian. As Lars has said, I'm a liability. I'm also Irish, like Rachel and Aoife. And I write Quest Academy. It's a superhero series where, 18-year-olds are being taught how to fight against the demonic wars that have overrun society in the not too distant future of 60 years. Why is Brian? Sorry. But yeah, by the way, just with this whole panel, I've read the description, and anyone that's read Quest Academy knows how useless I'm going to be for this. But yeah, so looking forward to it, hoping to learn stuff.
I've just realized this panel is 50% Irish as well, and like 80% Legion.
Should we like diddly idle D it up? And just be like, oh sure, I love the potatoes.
Yeah,
good old Irish stew.
Now Aoife there. Now, who are you? And then
happy Gara now. I'm just after finishing me Irish stew and me dumplings.
Just down the pint of Guinness there, ready to go this morning.
And a pint of the black stuff.
That's
racist,
Brian.
Accent,
That's racist. You can't say that. Only we can say that.
So yeah, I'm Aoife Y. And I write stories with my awesome co-author buddy Rachel, who's probably in the comments trying to make sure I'm okay. We're writing a Tower Climber series called A Titan's Core. It's a bit of kind of like a mashup of Squid Games meets loads of kaiju monsters. So I'm glad that Brian doesn't know a whole lot, because I've a bit of a mixture of background on food and stories.
That's what makes it fun.
Cool.
We all come at it from a different perspective. How about you, Ryan? I love that I asked you.
I'm supposed to eat on these panels. I think Matt said something about that. I don't know. I just figured I'd show up and have some food on my food panel, right?
You've just become the most qualified person on the panel. I hope you're excited.
The only thing I'm qualified for, the fat guy, is food, I think. So that counts.
Okay, so my first question is, so I personally have the culinary skins of a bin. Do you guys cook? Does that influence your writing? Is that like something, are they connected for you? Do they influence your stories? All that kind of stuff. I'm going to go, Ryan is eating, so I'm going to jump into a random order. I'm going to go with Brian first, because I could see him being like, don't fucking ask me.
So I was totally listening to that question, but just for everyone else's benefit, could you say it again?
You're such a shit. I knew you weren't listening. I said, I can't cook, but can you guys cook? What is your personal relationship with like food, and does it influence your writing? Like, does it play a part in the stories? And yeah.
Wow. So that is such a good question. I like, I don't like to brag, but like I'd probably put myself at like 1 Michelin star. I don't know. Like, if we're talking about spare tires, I'm definitely a Michelin.
You get the best takeaway. Seriously, you rock at that.
I do rock at takeaways. Did I cook for you when you were here, Lars? No. Okay.
Well, like, you gave me a Snickers, I think.
Fantastic. Now, I will say that, like, this is the really funny thing. I'm a reluctant chef. Okay. So my dad taught me a lot when I was younger. So he said, "Glass, why do you hate sushi?" And
do you hate sushi?
Okay, no, I thought I hated sushi, but it turns out I hated shit sushi. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like really, it was when I was with Imra over in when I was in Guildford, over visiting, that I tried good sushi, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then I was like, where has this been all my life? And then they were like, oh, where were you getting sushi? I was like, yeah, from these little packets. And he was like, oh no, Brian, that's the shit sushi. So anyway, with me and cooking and stuff, I like learned a lot when I was younger. My dad's very, very, very good cook, and we would kind of like work together on stuff. But honestly, I do it so reluctantly these days. So it's only when I'm really trashed, my friends are like, hey, Brian, we could eat something. And I'm like, fine. And then you bring in edible balsamic vinegar and just be like, stuff. And they're like,
does that affect your writing? Do you find that comes up in your characters as well?
Only when I'm writing drunk and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, my patrons can't tell when I'm drunk, which is really funny. I was like, which of these was written drunk? They haven't a clue. I love it too. But no, honestly, Sal in Quest Academy loves steak, hates salad, and loves black coffee. And like, people make fun of him for it, but that is his like staples. And like, he's slowly developing scurvy. It's great.
Okay, so he gives his character scurvy. That's what I've taken from this. Lars, shall we hop to you next? Oh wait, or shall I hop to someone else? Or is your mic having a moment?
He's flirting with me, I think.
I think he is.
Your mic looks excited, Lars.
Seriously, keep it down.
Don't whisper sweet nothings in its
I
ear.
am totally going professional. I have managed to continually and for 7 years and running keep 3 kids alive. So that qualifies me as a chef, I think, pretty much. Actually, the wife is the good chef, but I love to bake. And I've gotten pretty decent at that. So homemade bread, pizza, pitas, cake, any sort of cake. I am a huge sweet tooth. And that shows in my writing, I think.
So, as in, are your characters also bakers, or some of them, or do they have big sweet tooths?
Sweet tooths, totally. I mean, anything chocolatey, I go into way too much detail when it comes to that.
So it'll be like, 2-page fight scene and then 3 pages on the cookie they have as a treat after the fight scene.
Exactly. I mean, muffins are fucking important.
They are. Oh, unironically, I agree, 100%. Gabe, how about you?
Well, I was in restaurants before writing, and so I did it for about 20 something, 22 years of my life. So like front of house, back of the house, opening restaurants, all that stuff. That was like my life. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was pointing. Robert was saying cakes. He bakes cake, and yet the man is skinny, and now I'm hating more. Me too, Robert. Sorry. That's what I was pointing down. Sorry. If I do this, I'm pointing at the comment.
You're not that skinny, Lars. I think you're a healthy weight. You look fine, and eat as much cake as you want.
I love you.
Are we all healthy weights?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't know this man is a liar.
Isn't it subjective? Everything's subjective. It's subjective. What's healthy?
Did you say heavyweight?
I'm like extra healthy. That's
I thought Ryan had the burger, Brian.
really good.
Gabe, you worked in restaurants for 20 years.
For 20 years in restaurants, and then I started writing, and I had to use the experience I know, and I know how to cook and I know how restaurants work. And so I was writing one of my first books and there was like a long slice of life part. And I was like, well, I love fried chicken. Let's just put this in. And I went through like a whole how to make fried chicken from scratch, and people really liked it. So I kind of continued with that. And then the next few books I did just kept adding food. And then I'm on my current popular series, like my most popular is From Chef to Crafter to Conqueror. And it's about a chef from the future who's in the Space Force, gets sent back in time to medieval Japan and fights off the Mongols while cooking really good food. So like, I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
How have I not read this? I love that as an idea.
This
But it's
isn't
so
lit
fun.
RPG. It's not a lit RPG. It would be alternative history, time travel, portal fiction.
Class.
Yeah, but like
I
my other
love
books
that
are lit
idea.
RPG. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
How about you, Aoife?
So again, I would say probably from my childhood. So like my best pal and me, our mums were best pals. My mum did not bake. Everything was store bought. My best pal, her mum was like a second mum to me, and she used to make the best mince pies, the best apple tarts, flans. I have such a sweet tooth. Oh my gosh. She actually during the summer holidays used to take us on like a little mini kind of cookery course she did for us all around cakes. So that's where it started for me. I did home ec in school as well when I went through a vegetarian phase until I met my husband. And I was introduced to all the fantastic cookery there. I'm trying to think. Oh, my magic cookery skill came along when the kids did not want to eat vegetables, and I figured out a way. Well, I found a recipe of how you can hide some veggies in chocolate cake, and it still tastes delicious.
Wait, as in, do you like blend them up and you pop them in?
Yeah,
Oh.
so it's like, because I have such a sweet tooth, and I was very dubious when I saw this, but it's like courgette, and you just kind of shred it up, and yeah, there's lots of ways.
You can use beetroot as well.
Yeah.
Lots of ways, and it still
Note
has
to
to
Brian.
taste good.
Unless your kids are like super tasters, you can't use beetroot because they'll taste that dirt taste in like a second.
Yeah. So note to Brian, don't eat cake that Aoife gives you. I'm picking up you're not fond of salad.
This sounds
lost
fantastic.
all those skills. I mean, I was like, I have 3 children as well. When my eldest daughter was born, it was just like everything was pureed, and everything was like, I was about as organized as I get, which is not very. By the time my youngest, it was like, oh, you can a whole baby wet led weaning. This sounds great. You just plonk the food in front of them and hope for the best. I know it's safe, I swear, but that's by the 3rd child he was feeding himself.
I was about to say, I'm the eldest of 4, and having seen how careful they were with me versus like the last one, which was like, are they breathing? Fuck it, it's grand.
That's right.
That's totally fair. How about you, Ryan?
Well, I don't go into a ton of detail about the specific recipes, but I grew up in a household where everyone's cooking tasted like shit. So I ended up learning how to cook because I was tired of needing to pray over my food to make sure I didn't die, kind of things. So I taught myself as I got older. And when I left the house, I obviously had to cook on my own as well. So I became very proficient at all of the things that now I'm being told I should not have so much of. I've done a lot of fried foods. I also have a pretty fantastic fried chicken recipe that everybody has loved. My mac and cheese is one of the things that my kids I'm famous for. It's expensive. It's like $75 for just the ingredients to make the mac and cheese. But everybody goes absolutely bananas over it. It's so good, and it takes 2.5 hours to make. So
if I show up at your house with $75,
yeah,
we'll have mac and cheese.
We'll have mac and cheese, and I promise there will be bacon in it.
Oh, okay.
Rachel, you need to send it to him 3 hours in advance.
No,
and then
obviously.
arrive at his door. Otherwise, you'll be waiting awkwardly for 2.5 hours, being like,
I'm
"Is it done?"
Oh my god! So I get to hang out in his house where there's definitely going to be alcohol. Oh shit!
It's definitely going to be alcohol.
Exactly. You're not thinking this through, man. Not thinking this through. Okay.
No, he's the man that drops whiskey into pints of Guinness. You'd have to watch that happening.
If I get
Or
mac and cheese out of it, I'll do it.
Well, you'd have to drop something into a Guinness to make it taste good.
Okay.
Isn't there
Lars-
a name
Lars
for that when you
is
drop whiskey in it?
A Boilermaker.
Yeah, the Irish car bomb.
I thought that was that one, the name.
Wait, isn't it a? Is it a whiskey in a pint of Guinness? Is a
I thought it was a
Boilermaker?
Jameson. A Jameson into a Guinness is a car bomb.
Is that a car bomb?
Yeah. At least that's what we called it in the bar. It was not very PC, I guess.
It's not
These
right.
didn't make this up,
No,
Brian.
no. Okay.
Don't
right.
make shits. I just disturbed them.
Okay, next question. So, recipes are a big thing in books. You know, so things, you know, books like Legends and Lattes, they combine like coffee and cinnamon rolls to make this delightful story. And Lit RPG isn't necessarily something you would think of with recipes, but Asano's Lemonade, for instance, is hugely popular. Have you snuck a recipe in there, or have you tried a recipe from another book that you've read if you haven't snuck one into your own books? I'll go back the other way. I win. So Ryan, should I start with you?
Sure. I haven't tried anybody else's recipes. I've read several from the books, and I guess I kind of have a recipe at one point in my in the
What
third
is it?
book. I don't know how much information I want to give out on it because it would kind of spoil a few things. But let's just say there was a seafood boil that happened at the end of the third book.
I like how vague that and threatening that sounded. I approve. Aoife.
I'm not muted. Sorry, I'm checking. I'm not muted. Yeah, I think just more from nostalgia, reading the Nameless Restaurant, the Golden Fried Rice. I just love how like it's just described, and then the experience as well. So, and in general, like even in some of Cultivation novels, not necessarily all lit RPG, just like the tea ceremonies and all that sort of stuff. I love. I just the rituals and things behind some of the cooking processes. I love because I'm not. It's like, you know, when you're watching cooking shows, it's like, oh, I just love watching this being made, or sugar crafting. I mean, I would have come from like I loved art and history of art and everything like that. So sugar crafting to me is fantastic. I love watching that.
I love that. So it's more world building for you.
Yeah, it's almost like a wish fulfillment in I'm not going to have the time to do this, but I love reading somebody else doing all this. This is fantastic.
I love that. How about you, Brian?
No. So the simple answer is no. Like, and I'll be very, very honest as to why this is. Because if I was to give a recipe, I'd be using grams. And they'd be like, but how many cups is that? And I'd be like, fuck off, I'm not doing it. Because
So patient.
you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like I just can't. I just can't do it. And also, like, a lot of it just comes down to like things of like if I had to find alternative ingredients to explain to a more American audience of this sort of stuff, it's not ideal. Also, like, if I then started explaining ingredients, that would then have a ripple effect for world building. Like when I put in steaks, I had to say that they were like artificially made steaks because people started asking, where are the cows, Brian? And I'm like, oh yeah, you know those skyscrapers? Yeah, there's a little patch of pasture up on the top of the skyscrapers. We just have to be very careful that the cows don't walk off and fall 80 floors because that will kill people. Like, so.
Also cows.
Also cows. It would also kill the cows. Okay. How about you, Lars?
Well, I am 100% with what Aoife said about the wish fulfillment part. I mean, if we look at the Corona times, you had everybody back at home trying out their sourdough loaves and all sorts of stuff like that. And for me, writing is totally like that. That I put a lot of stuff in my books that I really want to try myself, but I just can't find the time for it. Like I have in one of my books, in my Bard series, one a very detailed process of creating what beef jerky from deer meat, and that's I've always wanted to try that, but it's never going to happen with me. So for me, it's entirely about wish fulfillment. And next year, I'm gonna have my own beer made from a brewery, from a brewer made who took it from a description in one of my books. So
that's cool as hell,
beautiful.
Lars.
Yar.
That's cool. Okay, so we'll be ordering Lars beer next year. That's what I've taken from this. How about you, Gabe?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do put recipes in my books. Like some of them, like I don't use recipes like for every food item I describe, but sometimes I'll go into detail and you can actually use that recipe. Like in one of my Warrior Academy books, you can actually make that fried chicken if you follow the recipe. In the book in a book that's coming out that I'm gonna do with Athon, there's a recipe for creme brulee, you know? And so you can actually, if you follow that, you can make creme brulee from scratch. And I find, like, I was reading some of the comments, like, and Kyle's been asking, like, how was your experience for food and drinks influence your writing and stuff? And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like for the last like 20 years, food is just huge. Everybody loves watching food TV. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't like food TV. And just it's so part of the zeitgeist, you know? And when you talk about food, it's so approachable to everybody that if you talk about it the right way, everybody can, no matter if you're Irish, which half of us are here, you know, or from somewhere else, you can really relate to it. And I find it really helps like readers who may not like certain parts of the story, they can always relate to the food part. It just seems like it. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
No, and it's super true, and it's why, you know, I like that people are talking about it as kind of like something to world build, something to that's kind of like a little relaxing break from things along the way. It's something to kind of ground you in reality, which is part of like. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, there's one thing too I want to say, like between like baking, like you're talking about, and cooking. It's almost like if you bake, it's like science versus art. I know there's both in the things, but like baking is exact. Like you have to have, like Brian was saying, you have to have a certain exact amount of every ingredient. Whereas when you're cooking regular food, you can play more. There's a lot more freedom of movement, you know? So when you're doing that too, it kind of helps in your writing. If you're doing a recipe for a cake, you got to be more exact than if you're just freewheeling with something else, you know? Like I do like a sushi description. It's a lot more artistic that way than if I was going to describe creme brulee.
This is now the Gabe panel. And people can chime in as they wish. So I was going to ask specific, because like Lit RPG is such like it's all about progression, right? That's a huge part of it. Outside of just straight up eating, what is your kind of favorite, more imaginative use of food? Like as power ups, as healing, as like, is it something? Oh, it was actually this, we killed the villain using a spiked version of his favorite apple pie. Anything like that, either in your own writing or in other writing. Or in your writing, is it just like, no, food in this book is a sign that they survived the day. They got to the end of the day, they're having a steak and their coffee, and that means they lived to the other day. To see another day. I speak good. Okay. I'm going to jump around the order a little bit this time. Lars, I'll start with you. You're muted, my good sir.
Dumb bitch.
Yeah, seriously, it's bad. I absolutely use food both in the way of getting buffs and stuff like that. But what I love about using food in my books the most is using it as both as setting the mood and enhancing an atmosphere, and using it for progression. Like you can entirely see through a series as it progresses with me, from what they're eating, how the hell they're doing. Like in book two of my Bard series, when they're at a pretty low point, you can see where they're barely scraping by, eating Steger cabbage soup and I go into way too much detail about how awful that is and how they're drinking ache, which is basically you just take fruit, you mush it, and then you make it go bad and just ferment until you really shouldn't touch it anymore. So that, like, where they really use food as the low point to go into way too much detail about how bad it smells and tastes, and then progress on as they're able to buy better meals, cook better meals, and so on. So yeah, I use it to mark those special silent occasions, or not silent, but slower occasions where they relax and just say, okay, now they're actually they can buy a good meal from a restaurant. That's where we're at right now.
I must say I loved your, is it ache? I loved your description of it because it made me go, ugh, even just hearing about it, never mind reading about it. So it certainly, that worked. That did a really good job. Okay, we'll hop down. How about you, Brian?
Could you repeat the question? I listened to his answer and then I was like in the answer and then I was like, oh fuck, what's the question again? Sorry.
It's all good. I believe in you. It's what role does food play in your work? Is it like it can be used as a power up? It's assigned to symbolize it's the end of the day they survived. It's a celebration.
So this is more of a nuanced answer because anyone that's read Quest Academy will see some of the building blocks that are in place. Because this is a society that's kind of like learning how to move from old technology to the new essence-based system and abilities. So one of the key things for it is like you'll already see it with the coffees, as Kyle has mentioned, in that they have restorative functions. As in like these are like almost like elixirs made into the coffees to have like that like boost of restorative, you know, sort of nature, like to like, oh, my fatigue is gone. Those are like the building blocks. Like you can already see with Quest that there's like he's like, oh yeah, my ability is system and I'm able to give people like a level up system and things like that, but it's a stupid power. People just get addicted to the numbers. And you're all like, they're like, wait a minute, is that like a lit RPG system that comes in later in the series? And I'm like, yep, we're already 4 books in, let's go. So, and with food, you see Anderson Royce has the ability to actually grow things with his ability, and he's like, yeah, like how useful am I on the battlefield? Like I can turn this into a head of lettuce, whoop-de-doo. And like you see all these things of how does Sal, the main character's ability, impact all of these people, and how do they turn, you know, meals into something that's more than sustenance? How do they move away from just taste and like create the new coffee element of like, what is this salad? How does this impact? So you'll eventually have foods that buff, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, that's the sort of like idea that I have with it at the moment.
That's cool.
But it's essentially, but it's a slow build towards all of that, so it feels like earned and incremental, and that it's like a logical conclusion of all the steps that have taken part so far. So yeah, it's a slow burn towards that sort of buffing sort of thing, and I want the side characters to be the ones to develop those, and that Sal is used as the tool to get there.
So you
Brian, could you repeat that for a second, because your voice was so sexy I zoned out.
Yes, is the short answer to the question. I use food.
But sorry, so you said you had no food in your books. You're super qualified.
No. But like this is the thing, that none of them are appropriate yet. It's only the coffee that we've seen the effects with. And that's sort of like the elixirs, like where anyone with the alchemize or the refine ability is able to do that. But we haven't yet seen how, you know, Anderson Royce's character is able to properly use that in the future. So there's still that technological leap needs to happen. So it's more spoiler territory to say, yes, and this is the recipe.
So that means by the time you're on book 8, so in the first semester of the second year.
18.
Yeah, 18. Then there'll be food. Okay, got it. Noted.
Probably.
Noted. How about you, Aoife?
Yeah, I suppose, and I think about food again, probably influenced from my childhood. Like when I used to visit my friend, everybody sat around the table. Like food brings people together. And what I really love to see in stories, like one in particular, say like Battle Mage Farmer, he is, you know, he's so overpowered, and he's in part feeling like he's losing a part of his humanity. And just by, say, making cheese, or like, and there is the whole progression stuff going on. There's mana there, and it's done very well, you know, in how it's consumed and different things like that. But what the moments I really love are, say, him with people, like there's like a kind of a brother and sister, kind of a found family type of thing going on. And it's their interactions there that kind of build the story up. So they make the stakes matter for him later on when he's risking things. I love how food and how people either react to it, make it, or consume it as a party, and together reveals things about their character. And you see it as well, like there's lovely, you know, when you've got these high kind of tension moments, and then afterwards they can chill and relax and have food, or a drink. It's done very well in Ripple System as well. I really enjoy those moments. And I suppose I'm trying to incorporate that a bit in our writing as well. I think originally, like in our Wolf and Flame series, it's more progression, but with the cultivation system, an Irish-based cultivation system. But part of the setting of where we have the first kind of family interaction is at a barbecue. Yeah. And the backdrop is like Slieve na Coileach, so it's near the Loughroot Cairns. So there's like, you can tell there's going to be drama. There's like, you can tell stuff as well about the family. They're kind of like these, you know, like hippies, you know, their whole setup of the barbecue is all a mishmash of different things. And so the main characters kind of that's visiting there for the first time can see all that through the way the kind of the barbecue is set up. And then it's food and drinks and it's set up to, so it's a light moment before the disaster hits, if you want to say. And then like myself and Rachel were working on, there isn't maybe so much of it in, well, our main character in, say, A Titan's Core, he has this thing about seaweed, dried seaweed. So that's he brings that from, because he's Ishikite. That's something that he has from his old world brought into his into the tower where he's kind of imprisoned. They're allowed to keep certain old world items. And that just, I don't know, it just, I just liked that idea, and myself and Rachel kind of built on that, and like that there will be some kind of power progression tied to that item. And we're tying in from one thing to another. It was like, oh, well, what about like Popeye and his spinach, you know, that sort of thing. So we had a conversation about that and brought in some family kind of dynamics through that as well. And then we've another series. It's kind of like the working title is Necro Chick, and they are, they're helping this hapless owner of a pub called the Hooded Lady. Like, he just makes the worst food ever, and they come along, and it's kind of like this, you know, place for them to hide out, and yeah, they try and bring the place together. And
that's a huge role. Everything from building. Relationships, kind of foreshadowing, to kind of potentially using I'm now thinking of seaweed chips as a power-up item. Okay, that's really cool. I really liked your answer. How about you, Ryan?
So I apparently picked a very difficult path in the food world with the fact that I wrote a post-apocalyptic story. So I didn't realize because I've written a few other things before this, and most of the time when you write a story, you know, food is available. It's you go somewhere, you can buy groceries, you can go to a restaurant, you can do these things. But when the world ends and everything is turned upside down, there is no longer the same process of transporting things to stores and being able to grow food in the same way that you did before, because average Joe doesn't know how to tend a garden or feel or go through and grow an orchard for the fruits that they're going to need, or whatever the case is. So I had to get really creative with the manner in which food was used in the book, because I can't just go down to the local Walmart and have them buy groceries and make food that way. So I began with some of the rating of the places that had non-perishable items, things that were canned, and then had to have them go through and grow their own food, and eventually got to a point where they found a dungeon with a rather large creature that they could farm and use it for meat for their consumption in the guild that they have there, because they've got a little over 1,000 people in the guild now that have been gathered around from various places that they have to provide food for. And as the story progresses, everybody's being fed. I do get to the point where I am having some of the food add buffs. Since the system was newly integrated, I had to build up to that point. So the person who's in charge of the cafeteria has been learning to do some of that and advancing their skills, and they do get some buffs towards the middle to end of the third book, where they can start doing that as well. But up until that point, it was just mostly food in there. And I did see somebody who asked, is there no magical food in the vending machine? There is food in the vending machine, but you have to kill monsters because money doesn't work. It's only a monster course. And the issue with a guild of people who have been living in a society that relies on the police and other factors to protect them is they're not ready for violence yet. So the vast majority of the people in the guild are not fighters. So the people who are fighters will have the coin to purchase their own food, but there needs to be another way for them to provide for everybody else. So we had to come up with a more creative solution of finding a way to actually sustain that large amount of people and keep them safe. So it's been a nice, interesting challenge to come up with the ways to have that kind of food available, and then interacting with when people can go in there, creating a system of who's going to govern what's happening with that, and then even so far as they're actually going to grow their own food.
A part of society. It's an integral part of just of their daily survival. And I think, I love that you do that in your stuff, because I think that sometimes stuff we forget in the post-apocalyptic world, and there's such a focus on the fighting and the messing everything up that it's like, no, you actually have to build a whole new system of survival going forward. How about you, Gabe?
I think everybody said it all, right? I guess. No. So I started off using food as just kind of like, I'm sorry, Alfie. Aoife. I knew I was going to do that, and I was trying so hard not to do that.
You're grand. It's a tricky one.
It's like you were saying when you were talking about it. Food is like that round table. It's where everybody gets to. It's where everybody discusses. And when I first started using it, I was using it like that. It was a vessel for me to advance the story. So like in this Warrior Academy book, they meet at lunchtime, and I describe the lunch, and it's fried chicken and corn on the cob and blah, blah, or it's barbecue, but the vessel of the food is they talk about their day while they're eating, which everybody does. So it's a very universal theme, right? But after that, I kind of switched to more like Lars does, where I'm describing the food as, for the food itself. It's not just, it's still a vessel to put the story along, but the food is important as an aspect of just the food, eating the food and how it's made and stuff. That was really important. But like in my newest books, I incorporate all that, but I'm doing kind of like what Brian's doing and what Ryan's doing and the food. So my newest book is Mercenary reincarnated as a chef. And his magic power is he has time magic and spatial magic, but he can only use his spatial magic to change items into foodstuffs. And his time magic can only be used to cook in his cook. It's kind of convoluted, but it works out in the story. But as it starts out, he only cooks food and tastes good. Everybody likes it. And he makes food with his special power, but it doesn't do anything to the characters, but tastes good. But when they hunt and find ingredients and then he cooks with that, kind of like Brian's saying, the secondary characters, the supporting characters find out that there's actual benefits from eating. So it's like, like you playing WoW or whatnot, you eat a heart, a stew or whatever, or monster omelet, blah, 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 blah. But that's the game mechanic that makes it important to the story. You know what I mean? So the food's great. There's the building, but in my current story, it's more than just,
it's an integral part. I was about to say Is it integral or integral? I
It's,
don't know.
well, you're Irish and I'm American,
Yes.
so for me it's integral, and for you it's.
I did not realize. So it's both for you, as in literally in both ways. Because it's both for you. It's both part of the system and it's part of the story. I love that. I love that everyone has like it's completely different, and that Brian will one day have a cooking book. That's what I've taken from this. So my next question is more of a fun one. So I want you to take one of your characters, any character that you've done, and what dinner date would make them swoon? It can be 2 courses, it can be 3 courses, it can be a sandwich in a bin, but what is the dinner date that would make them just, this is it. Put a ring on it. Does anyone want to go first, or will I pick someone randomly?
I think I can go.
Ryan.
Because this one was pretty easy. I actually had something that it wasn't really a date, but it's something that I know would absolutely make this character go bananas again. And that's there's a restaurant in Texas, which is where I live and where my book is based. That is, I would guess by now, world renowned with social media for having a 72-ounce steak challenge in Amarillo, Texas. So they cook this 72-ounce steak with a baked potato and rolls, and I think there's a salad and one other veggie, and you have, I think, 2 hours to eat the whole thing. And if you eat the whole
Did you
thing,
just say salad and one other veggie?
Yeah, like a green beans or something like that, another additional side vegetable. That's how we do it in Texas. We call them individual veggies. That's.
I saw that guy on YouTube, Brian. He looks just like you, but he's Scottish.
Huh?
Like ate that steak, Beard Meats or something like that. Beard Meats World.
Yeah. I think that's I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But so I actually put that restaurant into my book.
Love it.
Because we live in Texas and we take our self-defense and Second Amendment rights very seriously. Maybe too seriously, if I'm being honest. But they got to the restaurant, and the waiters and waitresses were actually defending the restaurant while still providing service for people, and left the deal open. Like there's actually a scene where the goblins show up, and the person who's waiting on the table just goes, all right, hang on, wait here, and they all run out and kill goblins and come back, and there's blood on her face and all this, and she's like, now where were we? And so, but one of my characters that everybody seems to love, James. Who is my release for all of my intrusive thoughts. If I can think it and I shouldn't do that, I just let him do it so I can get it out of my system. He would absolutely love to go on a dinner date to this place again, because he tried to take on the 72-ounce steak challenge and failed miserably, but he fell in love with that place. I mean, even asking to go back again on their way back from the Grand Canyon on their trip back into Texas again. So I think that's exactly where he would want to go, and he would be over the moon for anybody to take him to that restaurant again.
I love that. I love that a real restaurant is in your books. That's fabulous. How about you, Aoife? What dinner date would make a character of your choice swoon?
I think it's probably because it's kind of fresh. I haven't incorporated this too much, I think, in my writing, but we were in Hong Kong in the summer, so I'm thinking one of the favorite places, again, Sweet Tooth and everything like that, but this is like everybody loved it, honeymoon dessert. So it's basically just like, you can have, it mightn't, so they have like fruit dishes, but also like a little bit like bubble tea, but in dessert forms, so glutinous rice balls, and oh my gosh, with like mango ice cream, green tea, matcha ice cream. Oh, it's so good. And yeah, so that would be, I think, the place.
I'm regretting asking this because now I'm hungry, guys. You're not helping, and we're not even halfway through. And what character? Sorry, any particular character, Aoife?
I'm trying to think. Maybe
like me, of course.
Basically, yeah, self-insert here, but also I really think any of my characters. Maybe the latest one, yeah, Joe. I think he
would. That'd be his.
We go with he likes the seaweed flakes. He likes kind of all sort of. He would have a ball in Hong Kong, I think. Yeah.
Okay, Brian.
So I am very tempted to say that, like, you know, Rich Dolphus, Ironblood, would love a toe salad. But no. Being honest about this now, in book 4, there is a romance, like sort of like the love interest is kind of really introduced properly, Sal and someone else. And because they're both crafters, what I think would actually be the ideal dinner date would be along the lines of like having a hot plate that preserves the temperature of the food for a long period of time, because they craft a lot and they're kind of like absent-minded. So any food that they would have would be well-intentioned, but would then expire, or would then get cold, or would then get like shit. So it would immediately just turn into like, you know, like, oh, it's like, oh, this was well-intentioned, but it's now shit. So I think something that could actually preserve that. So like, you know, if it was bottle of red wine, if it was whiskey, and it was then just like, you know, either like meat dishes, you know, with, you know, pasta dishes, I think that would be the key thing that would win both of their hearts.
I love that. That's adorable. And it's that's very much a hoisted on your own petard kind of thing. It's like
But like, I think it's the mutually assured like shit.
Chaos.
As in like we're both shit at like keeping on track and keeping on task. So like having it that like, oh my God, we've just come up for air from crafting, and then it's like, oh my God, it's still hot. This is amazing. And that would be the most beautiful thing, because they're not being punished for being like, you know, creative savants.
I love that. I love that. How about you, Lars?
Well, I had this little runt in my dragon series. He takes like a race of small mole wolf people who are like the lowest possible rung, and he takes those on, and they kind of become like a team. There's one of those that's sort of a drill sergeant type, and who does not back down from any challenge, regardless how impossible and implausible it would be. Also, in that world, there is the added bonus that when you eat mana-rich food, you gain bonuses to your attributes. So the most mana-rich food there is obviously dragons. So his favorite dinner date would be somebody taking him to battle a dragon, possibly a red dragon, and then boil or char that red dragon in its own flame and eat it right there at the battlefield. That would be it.
That is so romantic. I love that, Lars.
Right, I'm pretty sure I fixed your hunger problem.
You did. No, I'm actually hungrier now. I think that's more a reflection on me, though.
Dinner by candlelight, but not
dinner by flamethrower. That sounds great. Yeah. Are you kidding?
Dragon candlelight.
You can practically feel the glow, and you're sitting there right inside the stomach, and it's nice and cozy. Just
sparks are flying, literally. That was terrible. I'm so sorry, Gabe.
That was a phenomenal joke, but Lars, that was what you're saying about being on the battlefield and cooking the red dragon in its own skin. It's so cognizant with like today, because like if anybody's into food, almost every like chef that after a certain point gets to this point in their career where they just go to straight fire. Like it's some kind of weird thing that happens, and it's all these like amazing chefs. They end up like moving to Australia, and they open a kitchen, and they have like just a kitchen with just flames everywhere they cook on. There's this one chef, I can't remember his name, that's really, really popular right now, and he's doing it. All of his food is just different heats, fire, not a griddle, not a charcoal grill, but it's flames, and he cooks on the flames. It's all flame cooking. So it's really, really, really like avant-garde. But a side note.
Yeah, and they have to use these really huge machete-like knives for it. It's weird.
I think that's awesome.
I we've just gotten confirmation that Lars is avant-garde. That's what we needed. So that'll be my takeaway from this panel. Sorry, Gabe. Dinner dates, swooning, character.
Real food or food like food that I would take them to in real life, or food that I would make for them in the story, like the character.
Whichever. Which is more fun for you?
Well, so they're both pretty fun. So I told this on my AMA. I went to Warsaw, and I went to Nobu in Warsaw, and it was the best sushi I ever had in my life. And it's the middle of Europe, and you don't expect it to be in Warsaw. And I know Nobu's a chain, but the sushi was just so amazing, and I couldn't believe how amazing it was there. And I used that for my From Chef book, and I describe how to make sushi in it from that experience. And I had any character in my books, like it's the best meal I've ever had. I can't stress. I've eaten lots of places, and like my wife and I travel for food specifically sometimes, most of the time. And it's just, I couldn't believe it. So any character I have in my books should go to Nobu in Warsaw specifically and eat sushi. But for my books, I am a shit romance writer. Like, I'm terrible at it. Like, I couldn't write a sex scene. I tried, and you could just, it's like 70s softcore porn. It's awful. But I have this idea for one of my characters to romance one of the main characters, and he's going to cook her a dish. And it's a dish I used to make when I was single and trying to be a successful man. And I would make a French bread crostini. I toast it, and then you would sear a large diver scallop, and you wrap that with I usually use maple bacon. It's my favorite. And then you make like a mango habanero red onion chutney, and you put that on top. And it takes like 15 minutes to make. But when you do it at a home on a date, you look so cool because it's all these different ingredients, all these different colors, and it just looks really nice, and it tastes really good, and it's fresh. So I was like, I'm going to put this in the book somewhere. And that's hopefully that will make the character swoon in the book. So
I'm going to follow on from Robert.
I am also really a terrible romance writer. But I just realized that I think you and I have a secret here that we could probably explore. A man falling in love with his food would be an amazing romance scene that I think we could probably handle on there.
I think I can make that happen.
Also, I love the phrase, Gabe, to be a successful man, because I agree. They should all successful men can cook and make, what is it, French crostini? Is that what it was?
Oh, it's a French bread crostini, but yeah.
French bread crostini. Yeah. So I mean that is the best definition of masculinity I've heard so far. Love it. Okay, so we have got 8 minutes left, and I don't like to rush the outros. So what I usually do is, everyone go down, talk about what you're working on, where people can find you, and then we'll use the last of the time to just blitz through as many starred questions as we have. That sound good? Okay. Which way did I start last time? I think I started with you, Gabe. So I'm going to start with you, Ryan, this time. Go back around. Who are you? What are you working on? And where can we find you?
Yeah, it's much appreciated, especially since I didn't actually get to say any of it the first time. You just skipped over it when I was eating a burger.
Sorry! I thought that was the bit.
It was so intentional.
It was so intentional.
Can we move on?
Not intentional.
Sorry, moving on, Aoife. What about you?
Ryan!
You son of a bitch. Anyway, my name is Ryan Maxwell. The main series I wrote is called Grand System Bending. It is a post-apocalyptic story set on Earth in the great state of Texas, where the administrators of the system noticed that people on Earth really are enamored with vending machines. So they created everything that has to do with purchasing items or survivability equipment through vending machines. You kill monsters, you get monster cores from killing monsters, and that is this form of currency that the vending machines take. You can literally buy anything that you would want from there: guns, ammo, swords, armor, food, toys, whatever it is that existed on Earth at one point in time, they can now buy from vending machines, and they have to survive their new reality as their life's been turned upside down. There are 3 books out on Royal Road for that. And then I've also started into a second series called Dungeon Grand Prix. That is a dungeon core series where a man from Earth is reincarnated as a dungeon core in another world. And he has decided to, instead of following the typical dungeon path where it's just make monsters, kill people. He has decided to turn his monster or his dungeon into a kart race. So like a Mario Kart style race through the dungeon, where they have different minions and monsters who are springing out to attack them. They have treasure chests they can hit. They'll have weapons inside they can throw at other people or use to fight off monsters, and a bunch of other different traps that are put in place to stop them. They make 5 laps to the dungeon, and once they successfully complete that, they get the reward at the end. So
That sounds amazing.
Yes,
that sounds cool as hell, dude.
Yeah. So it started going up on Royal Road. I believe as of this morning, there are 3 chapters there now, but I've got just about 70,000 words into it already, so it should be a fun ride.
Fair play, Ryan. I did that on purpose, so it would have more of an impact at the end of the. Aoife, you're up next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I love that new cover as well. It's like if that was a game, I'd be playing that. It's brilliant. Yeah. So I'm Aoife Y, and I write with my co-author Rachel Cooper. We're writing a couple of different things, but the most recent is Titan's Core. It's on Royal Road. I think there is the link. We drop 2 chapters a week at the moment. We have the first book completed. It is about, I'm dreadful at being very concise about these things. I can't do elevator pitches or any of this sort of thing, but it's a tower climber isekai. I mentioned there are like kaiju sized monsters in it. The main thing is time is currency here. They earn time currency in these battle box, kind of like a bit of a Pokemon type of thing going on. And the prize when you get to the top is immortality. Of course, there's a catch. So yeah, we're making this into a trilogy, and it should be published next year, hopefully. Yeah, so that's me.
Brilliant. I can't wait to read Titan's Core. Brian.
I'm the writer of Quest Academy, another Irish author, shock horror. So I've book 3 came out on the 4th of October. The audiobook for that is coming out on the 28th of January. I am 3/4 of the way through book 4. It's up on Patreon at the moment, and it's going well. But yeah, it's really, really happy with how the series is going. People are reacting very, very well to it, so I'm very, very happy. But yeah, check it out. It's you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Audible. Yeah.
I love, just you saying one Quest Academy is brilliant, but you going, oh yeah, another Irish author just reminded me of an Irish comedian's joke, which is that the Irish are actually the greatest invaders in the world because we don't invade, we infest. And we're coming for literal PG. Lars.
Well, that was scary. I am currently writing books 2 and 3 on theft of decks, and that is decks as in cards. You filthy animal, Brian. It's a deck builder that tries to take old school Magic the Gathering vibes and mix it with the only good Dungeons and Dragons movie. So with a bunch of thieves as main characters. So yeah, I love deck builders, and that is my current only work that I really, really dedicate my time to.
It's a brilliant book. I love the theft of decks. It's so good. How about you, Gabe?
I'm Gabe Rathweg. I have a couple series out on Amazon. From Bad to Good, Earth Online, Warrior Academy, I Am Gamer, From Chef to Crafter to Conquer. And I would say in that order, if you want to read a good one, start at this side. And if you want to read one that's not as good, this is the first one. But I'm currently working on the 2nd and 3rd books in a trilogy for Aethon Books, Mercenary Reincarnated as a Chef. And that will be out when the other 2 books are done, which I will hopefully get done in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 2 months. But Portal Fiction, game lit, tower climbing, tower defense. That's, yeah, a little gender blending. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. So hopefully have that out by this holidays.
Gender blending as opposed to genre blending. So sorry, it was right there.
I said gender? Did I say gender?
I know, I loved it.
maybe there's some of that too.
There's something there. There's something. Sorry. I'm being
there's
very
something there too.
I apologize. Okay, so I'm having a quick look at the questions, and in fairness, a
What
lot of
about
them,
that Rachel Les? We've heard a bit about her.
So there's this like tiny Irish lady. Her name is like Rachel Newkirk, and she writes these like Knights of Eternity books. Okay, and the last one is out in 5 days, and that's a completed trilogy. Will be out this year. But yeah, anyway. Thank you, Lars. So I'm having a quick look at the question. Carl Wilkinson, I loved your questions. We've actually touched on a lot of them already, but Carl, thank you for asking for such poignant questions. This one caught my eye, one by Amanda. My novel takes place in a different world. Is it worthwhile to come up with completely new systems of measurement? Or is that too much for the reader? Okay, I saw an immediate reaction. Here, we'll start with you, Gabe, because that was very visceral. This will be the last question. Just don't do it.
Do not make up words to make up some fictional form of measurement that you're going to say is miles or kilometers eventually. Do not do it. Everybody knows you're creating such a problem for yourself that you're gonna fixate on this so much it's gonna screw yourself up. Just don't do it.
Anyone, anything to add to that, or is that the genuine
Handwavium? Add Handwavium. It's up there with Copium as the greatest element of all time, but Handwavium is like, oh yes, and he just channeled his essence into it, and it turned into this.
Or the system translates the measurements for you, or something. You know, it's
such a cop out. It's great.
Do not do it to yourself.
Okay, I think that is us. We are a tiny bit over time, but like I think we're pretty much on it. Thank you all for coming to Great. I'm hungry. I am also now hungry, and I will be eating after this. And yeah, Geneva, take us away. We'll slow wave.
Thanks for letting us all come to Ireland.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Stay in touch, Brian.